Well, good evening, our beloved viewers, and welcome to the Best Talk Show. First of all, I want to apologize. We are experiencing technical hitches, and that is why you find that we are on air, on air, and off air. But now we are back on air, and we are believing that we shall have a very smooth show. So my name is Edwin Bachu, and as always, it is a delight to have you join us. My co-host and I are excited that we are here again on a Wednesday because again, like we say, our show is all about adding value, adding value. We're able to share knowledge and understanding in every aspect of our lives so that we can all grow in every area and arena of our lives. Again, let me apologize. Last Wednesday, we were not able to do a show again because of technical hitches. But here we are, and we believe that today will be an awesome show. So the topic we had slated to talk about last week is what we'll be talking about this week, and it's going to be an amazing topic. So tell a friend to tune in because the Best Talk Show is on. We started on a series about, intimacy, wholesome intimacy in marriage. And today our specific topic will be some of the mistakes that most couples make when it comes to conflict resolution. Some of the mistakes that couples make when it comes to conflict resolution. But before we get to our topic, I have Mrs. Rosalind Nganga, my very able co-host, and I'm gonna take a minute and ask her to say hi to you. She tells us how her weekend was and what she is up to. How are you, Rose?
I'm great.
Good to have you.
Thank you for having me as always.
You excited about today?
Kama kawaida.
Awesome. She's very resourceful, very bright, very intelligent.
Thank you.
She's a walking encyclopedia. I think you should tell us exactly what you do so that our viewers, those that are watching us for the first time, they can have a bit of perspective of who you really are.
Amazing. The pleasure is all mine.
Yeah.
Good evening, lovely people of God. As usual, I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah.
It's a joy
True.
to have this sit down,
Yeah.
share some of these issues that affect our day-to-day living.
True.
So I am a personal development, spiritual, and relationship wellness coach.
Yeah.
And I delight so much in talking about these three issues because I believe they really affect our day-to-day living.
True.
I do this mostly on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That is Rosalind Wanjiko Official.
Yeah.
I also do it on Facebook, Rosalind Wanjiko. And I also do some of this sharing God's word, sharing insights on relationships
True.
and personal development on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
And I go by the name _designated_therapist.
Awesome.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
That is on point. So again, if you're joining us right now, we again apologize for the technical hitches we've been having.
Yeah.
And like I said in the earlier part of the show, we didn't do our show last week because of technical hitches. And now we are back and we believe this is going to be awesome. So listen to this, Rose, as we get into our topic. So there's this video clip of Michelle Obama I shared with you.
Yeah.
And she was talking about marriage. And she said, and I quote, "Marriage is hard, and a lot of young people are quitting on marriage over things that are part of the commitment." She also said, "We glamorize marriage, and marriage today is more about the dress, the proposal, and the honeymoon. And many people are not just ready for the reality of marriage," isn't it?
That's true.
So in that clip, she was very candid, very open.
Yeah.
Her being the former first lady, most people are not real.
You know?
Yeah, but she was really real, and I love that about it.
Me too.
She said, many people don't understand that commitment is part of the deal,
You
isn't
know?
it? Eh?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Amazing. First of all, I love that woman.
Yeah.
Michelle Obama. Everything about her is everything I desire.
Awesome.
And when she gave those insights on marriage, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Because I know that everything that's beautiful
True.
has roses and thorns.
Yeah.
So there's something beautiful about marriage,
Yeah.
but also inside, as you try to build that beautiful thing,
Yeah.
there are difficult moments in that beautiful thing. And I
True.
like when she said that people give up on marriage because of something that's part of the commitment.
Yeah.
And it's like in business, sometimes you have losses, sometimes you have profits,
Yeah.
but you don't give up on your business But I think the reason for this is because of your why.
Yeah.
Why are you in this marriage?
Yeah.
You know, your why will dictate your how.
Wow.
So people should know why they are in marriage in the first place,
Yeah.
and why you desired marriage,
Yeah.
because that reason will keep you going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the highs and the lows are part of the commitment.
They are part of the commitment.
And I think part of the problem, the challenge we are facing, especially with the millennials and Gen Z when it comes to relationship and marriages, is because, as she said, we have glamorized this thing.
Exactly. You know, nowadays everything, Edwin, has been glamorized,
Yeah.
especially because of social media.
Yeah.
But honestly, when I talk to people, sometimes they feel like my advice is lofty and like it's unachievable.
Yeah.
But I like to think about, you know, when people say the sky is the limit,
Yeah.
so that in case you don't get there, you at least fall somewhere close to the
Yeah.
sky. So that's how I like to approach things.
Yeah.
Look at marriage and think about it in its hardest places.
Yeah.
Don't think about the beauty of marriage when going into marriage.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, think about the hardships of marriage
Yeah.
to know if you want to get into marriage.
Absolutely.
So that even if you're getting into business, you need to think about the difficult moments of being an entrepreneur.
True.
So that these beautiful things will just come automatically. You know,
Yeah.
you won't struggle to enjoy the beautiful things
Yeah.
as long as you have kept tabs with the difficult part of things.
Yeah.
So what social media does is that it starts with glamorizing, and then so that it attracts you to the thing.
Yeah.
So people will bring photos of their weddings, videos of their weddings,
Yeah.
times when they're having fun on dates. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's good to encourage people.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's also good to build that muscle,
Yeah.
that emotional muscle,
Yeah.
that mental muscle, so that you're able to go in it with the facts.
True.
Yeah. So that's the problem with social
I
media.
agree with you. So there's this couple, I'm not going to mention their name, they are trending right now because the hubby bought the wife a Range Rover. And sometimes when we see that, I'm trying to put myself in the mind of a young girl.
Thank you.
And she's thinking, man,
Yeah.
I want a man just like that.
Yeah,
eh?
I know.
So that expectation is not realistic.
It isn't.
It is not realistic because 99.99% of marriages, really, you won't find that. So what they are projecting to us on a day-to-day basis is, you see, what people don't understand is when they do that, they are growing their social media presence
Exactly.
because that's how they earn their bread and butter. You get that? So we are not able to disassociate from reality and theatrics.
That's
You
true.
get that? So when you're talking to a millennial, maybe a Gen Z,
Yeah.
and you're trying to convince them that that's not really how things
Yeah.
are, it's difficult. Eh?
difficult.
So having said that, do you think it's important we just lay a foundation and we tell our viewers
Yeah.
what is marriage?
Wow, marriage. I think how I'd best describe marriage. It
Yeah.
is a union of two people
Yeah,
coming from different backgrounds,
yeah,
trying to build their own culture and trying to build their own story.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You build your own culture. Two people from two different backgrounds brought together by a common thing.
Thank you.
said the why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The why.
So in our last show, our previous show, you talked about that when you revisit, when you do your anniversary, when you have your first anniversary as a married
Yeah.
couple, ask yourself what is the why?
Why are we here?
Why are we here? So even when you're dating, before you say I do, you should have answered that question why.
Exactly. And if I remember well, we said that the foundation of your relationship should not be physical intimacy.
Yeah.
We mentioned several types of intimacy,
Yeah.
and we said that physical intimacy should be the last one.
Yeah.
You know, it should be the one that brings together everything that you've been building now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So the problem is that people begin with physical intimacy, that's instant gratification,
Yeah.
and then all these kinds of intimacy that are meant to be built over time so that you
Spiritual
enjoy,
intimacy, emotional.
so that you enjoy physical intimacy.
Yeah.
It takes work for you to build all other types of intimacy, a
Absolutely.
lot of work, and that
Yeah.
is what people are not ready for.
Yeah.
And that is why most marriages are actually breaking, because you didn't take time to understand your partner.
Yeah.
You didn't take time to understand conflict resolution, how
Yeah.
your partner manages anger,
Yeah.
how your partner manages losses,
Yeah.
how your partner manages all these other things.
True.
So that's where the gap is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think you need to know the temperament of your partner, the personality of your partner.
Yeah.
You get that? Because in marriage, I bring my baggage, my wife brings her baggage.
Yes.
You don't just bring the looks and the height and all that, eh?
Yeah, Edwin, let me cut you off.
Sure,
let
sure.
me cut you off, kidogo. In fact, I feel like now, when you're asked by your partner, what do you bring to the table? Tell them the negativities that you bring to the table. Yeah,
true.
let's talk about the Let's talk about that.
Take the mask off.
Yes,
Be real.
please. Let's talk about those things that he
Yeah.
or she will not like.
Yeah.
And then they can make an informed choice.
So in short, what you're saying, and I agree with you,
Yeah.
especially when you're dating, courtship stage, yeah? That's when you go on dinner dates, ukishamwambia her eyes are as blue as the sky.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, ask her, but they tell me, what are your weaknesses? You know, do you have, what's your body count?
You
get
know,
what I'm saying?
people will not answer that part.
Bring out the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yes.
So that when you say I do, you know you're saying I do to what?
Yes.
Because if you put your best foot forward and you don't show your partner your weaknesses, your you know, the things that don't look good, after marriage and those things crop up, you're like, hey man, bro, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the being real in courtship is so important.
Is the best thing you can do for yourself, not for your partner, for yourself.
Yeah.
Because already whatever you say will be the foundation of the expectations
Yeah.
for you or towards you.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is lay it bare,
Yeah.
so that you know if this person really wants you.
Yeah.
But most people are actually afraid of rejection.
True.
And that is why they choose to bring out the best part about themselves. But when you decided that this is a person I want to get married to,
Yeah.
just you need to learn openness and honesty. That policy
Yeah.
will always be the best.
I
You need
agree
to
with
be
you.
transparent, you need to be honest to get the best partner there is
Yeah.
for yourself.
And one of the problems I have with celebrities and influencers is when they're on social media, they're always lovey-dovey.
Yeah.
They're always, you know, on point. Why don't they show us when they're having a nasty argument?
That will never happen because nobody even thinks about cameras at that time.
Yeah.
But I think it's up to now ourselves who are viewers to know that this is not the whole story.
And actually, it's
Yeah.
important for us to know what we see is scripted.
Exactly.
So they do sit down and say, okay, what's our clip for today?
Yeah.
I'm going to take the video and then we're going to say, do this. So it's scripted,
It's
to be quite
business.
honest. It's
Yeah,
business. That's
yeah.
what you say there. Yeah, they're marketing their brand.
Exactly.
So that they can get adverts, so that they can grow their membership, so that they can get a revenue. You get that? So it's important we understand that.
Exactly.
Because what you said is about marriage is two people coming together knowing why.
Yes.
If you don't have a why, I don't care how cute she is,
Yeah.
how rich she is,
Yes.
that thing is not going anywhere.
Absolutely.
Because when the glitz and the glamour fade, the why keeps you
Going.
isn't it? Huh?
Yeah.
So I remember back in the day, because I was raised by my grandma, and I saw how her marriage was to my granddad. Man, there were seasons where, man, they were just
Yeah.
enduring, to be
You
quite
know?
honest, because of
Yeah.
the challenges of like my granddad would be out of work, there's not enough income. I know he was a sole breadwinner, but I saw my grandma stick to my granddad like a tick on
You
you
know?
get what I'm saying? Yeah, it's do or die.
I think watu wa kitambo are they called boomers? Oh, watu. That's
Baby
era.
boomers
That's
and
era.
the silent
baby
generation.
boomers and Gen I don't know what.
Yeah.
So those people had a level of tenacity that
Yeah.
is unusual.
Yeah.
You know, that's not there today. And nowadays people just think of the way out.
Yeah.
And I shared yesterday, Edwin, about something, about going into the next stage.
Yeah.
And I said that you're not supposed to leave because things are not going as you wish.
Yeah.
You're actually supposed to live at your best, not
Wow.
at your worst.
Yeah.
Even in marriages, in relationships, people are not supposed to live at the point where there is conflict. Live when you have done your best.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when you have put your best foot forward to solve things that on your part,
Yeah.
you know you're guiltless.
Yeah.
You know, but people want to live at the like that instant where a challenge presents itself.
Yeah.
That's when people want to live. But you will never know the opportunities that were beyond the challenges
Yeah.
if you live at the point where the challenges are there.
Yeah.
So it's good to know, it's good for millennials to know, and for Gen Z also to know that there is beauty at the end of endurance.
Absolutely.
You know,
I agree with
but
you.
again, it's important to know who you're enduring with.
Yeah.
And that is why we said that your why is important.
Mm.
Are you sharing the same why? Are you sharing the same goal?
Yeah.
Because if you're going in different directions,
Yeah.
then you will lose your battle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the analogy you gave,
Mm.
whereby you say marriage is like a rose.
Yeah.
There's a thorn.
Mhm.
At the same time, the petals can smell so good.
Exactly.
So you cannot have your rose and not say, I don't need the thorns.
Yeah.
It goes hand in hand.
Mm.
So Michelle Obama, in that clip, she said
Mhm.
that in her marriage to Barack Obama, there were seasons whereby she felt she was giving 60%.
Yeah.
You get, eh? And he was only giving 40%. And she said at the end of the day that even though there were those seasons, when she looks back, she's like, was it worth it? And if you look at your partner and say, no matter what we go through, it is still worth it,
Exactly.
then you have your why. Because again, with marriage, and it's important for our viewers to understand that marriage is like, is you buckle yourself. It's a do or die, to be
Exactly.
quite honest. Eh? So there was this person who was preaching, he's very good on relationship. He said some of the things that would make you leave marriage, and maybe this is another show would do is, first of all, if there's constant infidelity,
Exactly.
that's a deal breaker. Number two, he said when there is physical violence, that can easily lead to loss of life. Yeah. So there are some deal breakers. You get what I'm saying, Todo? If you have someone who is a chronic cheating on you chronically, atakulete ugonjwa.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
And
yeah?
that's why I'm saying we have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
We have to be on the same side of this war, of
Yeah.
this battle.
Yeah.
We have to be pulling the rope from the same side.
Yeah.
If you are pulling the rope from different sides, then it means we are fighting ourselves.
True.
Our why is what we are fighting. We
Yeah.
are fighting our marriage.
Yeah.
But we need to know that we are on the same team,
Absolutely.
fighting what is against our marriage.
It's both of you against the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you notice, the only time you're losing the battle is if you're fighting your partner. If you realize that they're not on the same page as you, then that's a problem. That is something that would require a third party to come in, you know, and help you out. But as long as you're fighting, you have identified the problem, you have identified the stage, because sometimes it's actually not a problem. It's just
A
it's
season.
just a season.
A stage.
It's just something that is here to make you grow.
Yeah.
You know, it's a stage where maybe you didn't know this thing about your partner.
Yeah.
You didn't know how they would solve a certain situation. And so it presents itself.
Yeah.
Just like life.
Yeah.
It is growing. It's
Yeah.
about growth. But as long as you're fighting from the same side,
Yeah.
then it's worth the fight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but if you realize that you're constantly dealing with the same issue, then that must be a problem.
And also, it could be an indicator the foundation wasn't right.
Exactly.
Because you see, the Bible says, if the foundations are destroyed, what
Yeah.
can the righteous do? One of the things I've seen with marriages nowadays is sometimes people come on a very high note.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? You share dreams, visions together. But then a couple of seasons into marriage, all of a sudden it's like you lose focus.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Your attention is diverted. And instead of fighting together, you fight each other.
Exactly.
And it is so sad because if you don't overcome that stage, that becomes a deal breaker. So there's this movie I watched a long time ago called There's a Thin Line Between Love and Hate, which basically means to the same extent you love someone, it could be also to the same extent you hate them. It's a thin line between
It's
love
true.
and hate. Eh? So many people have to understand this. Marriage has a lot to do with work and little to do with feelings.
Exactly.
Can you
Oh
agree?
my God. And that's why I feel like
Yeah.
these stages of marriage, I think they should be inverted.
Mm.
It should start with knowing each other completely, laying bare all that you are.
Yeah.
And then after you work on those things, then you get into the honeymoon stage.
Yeah.
Because you've familiarized yourself with this person, you've
Yeah.
known all that they are, you've known the good, the bad, and the ugly, and now
Yeah.
you're celebrating your wins.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You're celebrating having overcome all these differences.
Absolutely.
You're celebrating building of your culture in that marriage.
Mm.
So, I mean, I feel like the stages should be inverted.
I told you I was raised by my grandpa.
Uh-huh.
And I saw sometimes when they would have an issue, they would argue so amicably
Yeah.
that my grandma would still serve my grandpa food. She never disrespected him even in front of us. She never spoke ill of him. There was such maturity,
Yeah.
in how they resolve their issues. I never saw my granddad raise his hand on my grandma.
Yeah.
You would sense the tension, but then within a couple of days or a few whatever, the tension is gone, and it's like it's just like a bump, and then you continue with life.
Yeah.
But nowadays, for some reason, when couples fight and we're dealing with conflict, they tend to take things out of context. Why is that, Rose? Why, when we are arguing, instead of focusing on the issue, we magnify things. We make a mountain out of a molehill, and we magnify something which was not initially a big deal.
Lovely. So when you mentioned about the dynamics of the relationship of your grandpa and your grandma, one thing I read is commitment.
Yeah.
You see, sometimes we need to understand our role in this marriage.
Yeah.
What is your partner's need?
Yeah.
Are you prioritizing it even in the face of conflict?
Yeah.
If, for example, what your partner loves most is to feel that compassion, are you prioritizing that compassion still in the face of adversity?
Yeah.
If my partner requires respect, am I still prioritizing respect in the face of adversity?
Yeah.
But what happens is that most of us, and it's something that we need to learn along the way and then get there. We are not there yet.
Of course.
We are just working on ourselves every single day.
Yeah.
But you have to make progress.
Yeah.
Is that people forget about their commitment. You forget about, you see, Edwin, sometimes business is not giving.
True.
But you still have to wake up and go to that business.
Yeah, open that shop.
That means you're committed,
Yeah.
even in the face of adversity.
True.
So even in marriage, I think we need to identify, what am I committed to? What have I committed to do for my husband, regardless of the seasons?
Exactly.
So when we know our commitment and our vows, not even that which you have said at the altar, because there are people who have not gone to the altar yet, but your personal vows, what have you vowed to do for this person? Have you invested emotionally and mentally? So your commitment to this relationship will dictate your behavior in every season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I feel like it's lack of that intentionality in paying attention to your commitment and your vows, your personal vows, that makes people fight against each other instead of fighting against the problem.
Absolutely.
And again, people are not intentional with bringing the problem on the table. Separate the person and the problem so that you're able to fight the right battle.
Absolutely.
So if you know that the problem is that you're not agreeing on time, why don't you stop attacking me and telling me you never keep time? Let's talk about time. What is the problem? Why are you not able to keep time? Let's fight that problem and not the person.
Oh, I love
that.
that.
And I know it's easier said than done, but intentionality is our highlight.
It has to be. And again, I love what you say. Separate the person from the issue. Because sometimes when we are in conflict, let's say we are having a heated discussion, we make it personal.
Yeah.
Get that? Because I'm like, if I feel you're outdoing me with the argument,
exactly,
I have to say something to attack you, to make you feel bad, which is so immature, to be quite honest. Because you're supposed to be both of you against the world, isn't it? So instead of fighting together, we fight each other. And unless you get to the point where you're able to say, okay, this is an issue, we are not enemies, we are lovers.
Exactly.
So let's deal with the issue and not attack each other. It's easier said than done.
It takes a lot of maturity, takes a lot of investment emotionally, and to really make your partner a friend.
Because I've realized sometimes when you have a heated argument and you say something to your wife or she says something to you, words hurt.
You know the funniest thing about marriage, you see these things that you would do to your partner so comfortably, you wouldn't do to your friend.
I know.
Why do we respect friends more than we respect partners?
Yeah.
Where does this disrespect come in?
I
And
know.
Familiarity? Because with friends, we treat them so nicely, we celebrate them, we manage our anger with them, you know. But when it comes to partners, I think we have made it such a familiar ground that we are not able to maintain our respect for these partners.
Yeah.
So I feel like people should revisit and re-examine their behavior in marriages.
I love it. And you
Yeah.
mentioned being intentional. I will be intentional. By the way, the word love is not a noun, it's a verb.
Yeah.
It's what you do. Being intentional in loving you, right? That means I respect you. I won't use derogatory words when I'm speaking to you. As much as it's within me, I'm not going to raise my hand
Yeah.
to harm you in any way, form, or shape. Because sometimes I've realized when couples are in conflict and you say things to each other,
Yeah.
after the fire has died down, then you're like,
Why did I say
"Nilimwambia
that
hivyo?"
thing?
You get what I'm saying? Yeah? And they always keep reminding you, oh, ono waturaga ojiraga,
Yeah.
waturaga ojiraga. And you're like, yeah, you said it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Eh? So resolving conflict is key, isn't it? Eh? When it comes to relationship. Now listen to this. I read a report that said married couples argue most about inadequate attention or affection,
Yeah.
sex, jealousy, infidelity, chores and responsibility, control and dominance, future plans and money.
Yeah.
So those are the things we argue most about according to this report. And in our last show, before we had a technical hit, we were
Yeah.
dealing with inadequate attention or affection. This takes us back to the 5 languages of love. Because for some reason, when we are married and familiarity creeps in,
Yeah.
it's like we are like, I no longer need to show her love language. Why do we do that?
You know, the other thing, I feel like sometimes we make our marriages a competition, you know, such that if, for example, you are not able, your expectations are not met because you understand their love language, you become a malicious person.
Oh, yeah.
So what you do is you actually deny them
Yeah.
so that they feel the same hurt you felt. And probably you did not even express this hurt.
Yeah.
Because, especially for men, because you don't want to lower your ego, you feel like it's going to be hurt if you express that, you know what?
Yeah.
You didn't do A, B, C, D, and I felt hurt. The thing is, most people prefer to express anger than hurt because anger looks like a powerful emotion
Yeah.
and you want to feel like you're in power,
Yeah.
and hurt looks like a helpless person.
Yeah.
And people don't want to be helpless.
True.
So because of that, the power dynamics, that is why people find themselves in such situations.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you want to revenge,
Yeah.
you know, and the moment we drop that ball of wanting to be in control and understanding that we are partners, then you're going to love our partners the way they want to be loved.
Absolutely. So I found that to be quite interesting
Yeah.
that couples argue about, the love languages because again they are core,
Yeah.
isn't it? Eh? Because you're supposed to love your partner not the way you think they ought to be loved, but the way they want to be loved.
Yeah.
So you have to be intentional about knowing your partner's love language. And of course, the other one is physical intimacy because again, I remember I was in a marriage seminar some time back and the facilitator was saying, you women, stop using physical intimacy as a weapon.
See now, that's what I'm telling you. You see, most people actually, Kitambo, I thought people
Yeah.
actually didn't know their partner's love languages, but they do. Once they get to the familiarity stage of marriage,
Yeah.
people really deny each other their love languages.
Yeah.
They intentionally withhold
Yeah.
so that you don't feel, they feel like it's a privilege
Yeah.
they're doing, or it's a favor they're doing to you by expressing your love language to you, So revenge is it's an elephant in the room
It is.
in marriage.
It is.
And just people withhold. People know their partner's love languages.
Yeah.
They just withhold because they feel like now they're powerful when they do that. But they forget you came together as partners,
Yeah.
not as enemies. So if you're coming together with a partner and a friend, then you want to do what makes them happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So women, because they know that most of their partner's love language is physical touch and everything that comes with that love language, then they withhold
Yeah.
so that you feel the hurt that they feel
Yeah.
when you deny them their love language,
yeah,
when you
yeah.
deny them love the way they want to be
Yeah.
loved.
Yeah.
So mostly it's because of our past hurts that have not been expressed.
Yeah.
So they withhold so that they feel like they're in power as
Absolutely.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think if married people knew how difficult marriage is, do you think people get married?
Question.
Have you
Food
ever
for
thought about
thought.
that? Yes.
Food for thought.
I mean,
don't know.
if you knew what it takes, to be honest, honestly, none of us knows what it takes
Yeah.
to make up. We think we do, but we don't.
But honestly, Edwin, let me ask:
Yeah.
what do you think makes marriage hard or difficult?
I think, to be honest, can I give you an honest reply? What makes marriage hard is I'm selfish. We all are selfish to a certain degree. We want things done our way,
Yeah.
how we want it. We want to receive more than we want to get.
Mm-hmm.
And we come with certain expectations. And when those expectations don't reach to where we want them to be, we are disappointed.
Because I feel like, and I love what you said about that. It's true. It's all these things. But are we not the team players? Are we not making the rules of the game? Are we not even the ones coming up with the game?
Yeah.
I mean, we've decided we've loved each other. Let's come together and build life.
Yeah.
So because we're the ones making the rules of the game, then why does it become so difficult? It's what you said, that people have come with personal interests. You know, you thought you're working together as a team,
Yeah.
but along the way we start having personal interests.
Yeah.
We become we are not transparent,
Yeah.
and marriage can never work without transparency and
Absolutely.
honesty.
Yeah.
So then when you ask if people knew what marriage takes, if they would still get married to one another, I think it depends on the mindset.
Yeah.
If you come with a partner who understands your why, and you also know their why, and your whys marry,
Yeah.
then yes, you'll still get
You'll be able
married.
to overcome whatever challenge.
You will. It's only that people are not truthful to one another.
Okay, let's take it a little bit deeper. Sometimes it could be you guys are intentional,
Okay.
but then there are outside forces. Let's say, for example, unfortunately, and sad to say, you may marry someone, and for whatever reason, you can't have a child.
Yeah.
That's an outside force. And you had expected to have a child, to have babies. You see, now that's something else. Yeah? Or sometimes you are married and there's a medical condition
Yeah.
and you can no longer be physically intimate. You know, these things do happen.
And you see, when we were going through a premarital counseling, all these things were laid bare.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, Edwin, and I'll keep repeating. I think people should know the worst before they get to know the best side of marriage.
Yeah.
You know, and our counselor really took us through all these issues, so that if you're gonna quit at this point, then you need to quit knowing
Now.
the truth.
Yeah.
That you know what, babies don't have to come at the expected time. They actually might not come, and God forbid. You know, money might not come.
Yeah.
All these things might come up. Are you ready to handle your partner if they're in that worst situation?
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, people should not glamorize marriage.
And they shouldn't take marriage lightly.
Just the way they don't glamorize business.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just the way they don't glamorize life.
Because honestly, even people who are successful in business, if they sit you down and tell you where they're coming from,
Yeah.
you'll be like, I don't want to do business. Because it's really tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to put in a lot of work. And there's seasons whereby you're putting a lot of effort, but you see very little returns. But you stick at it. You stay at it. Until finally what you've invested in starts to bear fruit.
And then again, what I'd say is nobody forces you into marriage, and nobody should force you into marriage.
Yeah.
Not your parents, not your peers. Get into marriage because you want to get into marriage.
Yeah.
You know, just like you would want to get into a certain venture in life, make sure it's a personal decision so that you have the drive.
And an informed one at the
Yes,
same time.
you have the drive to pursue marriage
Yeah.
the way you should pursue it, and be
Yeah.
faithful in it,
Yeah.
and be deliberate in it, and be passionate about it. Otherwise, if you get into marriage, and that is why we are focusing on the why so much, if you get into marriage with the wrong why, with the whys that are external and not internal,
Yeah.
then the likelihood of that marriage prospering is close to zero.
I'm glad you went for premarital counseling.
Yeah.
I'm from the school of thought that before a couple gets married,
Yeah.
they should go through extensive premarital counseling. Why is that? Because marriage should not be an emotional decision. It should be an informed decision.
Yeah.
You get that? Because the problem with this social media age, like we said, we glamorize something
Yeah.
that, to be quite honest, is not glamorous.
Yeah.
For the
it is
most
not
part,
as glamorous as you think.
not for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, to be honest, there's a dimension of marriage where there's monotony,
Yeah.
doing things over and over and over and over. And sometimes my wife and I discuss that. Man, we wake up at a certain time. We do this, you do that, you do that. It's like we can do things blindfolded.
Yeah.
You get that?
Yeah.
And if you're not ready for that element of monotony, then marriage may not work for you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we think, oh, marriage is love and cuteness and kisses and hugs and say, please.
I know.
It's monotony.
Gets to a point where your individual life is coming in the way of your marriage. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And then also you throw in the issue of in-laws.
Yeah.
Because when you marry someone, you marry their family by
And
default.
you can't avoid, yeah.
You
really
can't.
can't avoid
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So there are all these implications that come into play. And like we are saying, premarital counseling allows you to know what you are getting yourself into. We are not saying this to scare you, but we love you enough to tell you the truth.
Exactly.
Isn't
And
it?
you know what, Edwin? I actually think people should go for premarital before you ever involve
Oh,
your parents.
shake my hand.
You know?
I agree with you.
Yeah, before you go for Rurasho,
Yeah,
go for premarital. Let it
exactly.
be between you two.
It
Work
shouldn't
on
be-
that.
Most people do it as the last thing.
It should be the very first. Before you go and engage your parents, please go for premarital. Because
Yeah.
imagine you're going for premarital, you have already done your Rurasho, and you decide we don't want to
You've
do
already
this anymore.
printed the cards.
You know, please go for and that's why we say date for marriage. Don't date for fun.
Yeah.
Date for marriage so that you find it worthy to go for these premarital classes. Because you know the end goal is marriage.
Yeah.
But if you date for fun, you won't find a reason to go for that premarital.
And some people go for premarital as a formality.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be a formality. Premarital
Yeah.
roles should be where you like, this is where the rubber meets the ground. Am I really the one?
Exactly.
If you're going to say no, it should be at that point. Before you
Premarital
print the
is
cards,
powerful.
before you pay the bride price, you know,
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
It is so critical because that's when you are naked and bare and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I know we have feelings for each other. The dopamine is rushing through,
Yeah.
but are we really ready for this? Yeah?
Exactly.
And also be very honest. If you love someone but you feel you're not
you
compatible, just say it.
Absolutely.
I really am attracted to you, but I
But
think
I
this is just
feel-
physical.
Yeah.
I don't
yes.
see myself, yeah? So I love you mentioned that. It shouldn't be a formality.
No.
And by the way, it shouldn't be 2 sessions with
No.
your pastor. It should be extensive,
Yeah.
whereby you talk about conflict resolution,
Yes.
commitment, children, money, finances,
Yes.
faith, all of that.
All of that.
Yeah, in-laws, yeah, so that you are on the same page. So when you're saying I do, you know you're on the same page when it comes to money, when it comes to in-laws, when
Yeah.
it comes to finances, when it comes to doing a business, buying land,
Yeah.
isn't it?
exactly. Yeah.
So that makes it easier to be able to handle. But if you don't do premarital counseling, you're coming to marriage with the expectation, I want my baby immediately after honeymoon. And your wife is thinking, nipe 2 years. Me, I'm thinking it too. So you're like, you're still on,
Yeah.
whatever, yeah?
I
So
know.
these things, you iron them out before.
You iron them out before, and that's what I'm telling you. Let's make that structure inverse.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever structure is there for marriage,
Yeah.
let us invert it.
And another thing, and I think we are digressing, but it's still okay.
I know. Yeah.
Don't go to social media to learn about relationship or
Really?
courtship or marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
99.99% of it is scripted. It's not the real deal.
And it's good to mention to our viewers, Edwin, that our standard is Christianity.
Oh, yeah.
Our standard is Christian marriages, because when we talk about, say, premarital
Yeah.
and the values,
Yeah.
they're different for Christian
And
couples
secular, yeah.
and for secular,
Or other
marriages,
faiths, yeah.
or other kinds of faith. So
Yeah.
it's important to remind our viewers that
Yeah.
for that kind of faith, for shared values in Christianity is what we are discussing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important, of course. Our counseling, our teaching is Bible-based,
Yeah.
isn't it? And so we are being informed
Yes.
by what the values. And also it's important for us to tell our viewers, even as respectively, our marriages are still work in progress.
Oh, absolutely. My God, sometimes we're talking about things here and I'm like, I need to go correct that mistake.
I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get therapy from talking, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's a difference between theory and
Yeah.
practical. Some of the things we share, honestly, we don't apply. It's a disclaimer. But we are
But we are
sharing
trying.
things. We are working on
Yeah,
it
yes.
because, again, we are also learning, yeah? Because marriage is work in progress. So,
Yeah.
jealousy and infidelity is another reason why married couples argue. And on this particular one, sometimes when you do not show affection to your partner and you show affection to the opposite sex in their presence, they get jealous.
They do.
Like, why did you compliment her and you never compliment me?
Yeah. And trust is built.
Yeah.
So there's no way you're complimenting every other person but your partner,
Mm.
and you expect them to understand you when you compliment outsiders.
Yeah.
So it's good, first of all, charity begins at home.
True. Yeah.
So if there's a level of jealousy, of course, there are past traumas that could affect how your partner behaves when you're relating with other
Yeah.
people of the
Yeah.
opposite sex.
Yeah.
But trust is built.
Absolutely.
If we show our partners that they are worth it, and if we begin with complimenting partners and loving them and being faithful to them from home, then they wouldn't have issues with how you're treating people outside.
Absolutely.
Because they're already secure in that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if there's one thing we should give each other in a relationship is security. Both of us need security.
I agree.
Yeah, men and women need security.
And the reason I mention it, because I've seen some couples, sometimes they use that to hurt their partners.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? It's manipulation.
I know.
So when you go out with your friends, you make sure you compliment a lady on how she's dressed because you know you want to hurt your partner.
Exactly.
Or
See?
the woman will affirm another man, oh my God, have you been working out?
Yeah.
You know? Because you want to. And it is
Communicate
wrong.
negatively.
Yeah, manipulation is real in marriage, isn't
It
it?
is.
Eh?
Oh, it is.
Do you know the Bible refers to manipulation as witchcraft?
Really?
Yes, it does.
Anyewe ni uchawi kwa sababu what are you doing to the other person?
And it's very damaging because it can
Yeah.
affect your spouse's self-esteem. Imagine, let's say, I don't tell my wife she looks good,
Yeah.
and then when I go out in public, I'm telling everyone, "Oh
You
man,
know?
you look good."
Yeah.
She's like, "Ay, kwani I
Why
don't
wouldn't
look
she feel insecure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned we need to give our partners security.
Exactly.
So that is important. So, and couples also argue about chores and responsibilities. So let's say, for example, if you have allocated each other chores and responsibility, and he or she doesn't do it, of course, it's a source of argument.
Yeah.
You were supposed to pay the electricity bill. We had allocated the money. Why did you delay? Such a small thing becomes, I was in school, nitalipa nikitaka.
Yeah.
But if we agree that I'm going to do it, just do it.
And
Isn't
if you're
it?
not able to do it, communicate.
Just mention it.
Yeah, communicate. Because, like we said, communication is one of the biggest deals in
Yeah,
marriage.
yeah.
And if you leave it out, then everything else comes tumbling down.
Mm.
So communication is the best foundation there could ever be.
I agree.
That's where it begins. I mean, even when they were hitting on you, they started with communicating. So let's communicate. Let's get into the habit of communication. So that you're able to iron out some of these things.
And when you communicate, make sure your partner understands you. Because communication is a lifeline of any relationship.
Yeah.
We shared this. Don't communicate and they've been through so much, but they pour their hearts to the people. And that's where he said, I always ask her, what do you mean by that? And I thought, I've never thought of that.
Yeah, because, intentionality also just starts
It's important.
It is important, and we can only be intentional if we still love our partners.
Yeah.
When you don't care about something, you don't care about intentionality. So you should ask yourself, if you're not intentional, then we are questioning your love
Yeah.
and your compassion towards your partner.
Yeah.
Because you're thoughtful about things that you care for.
Mm.
So if you don't care for this person, then that's why intentionality is thrown out the window.
Absolutely.
Because they don't come anywhere close to your mind.
Yeah.
If this is the person that you think about the first time you wake up, the very first time you wake up, then you will want to know what matters to them.
Yeah.
You will want to know how best to love them.
Yeah.
You will want to know how their day was at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So intentionality also comes with value.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've seen with this generation is overstimulated, over-sensualized. So we base marriage on feelings.
Sad.
Oh, man. Feelings last like this.
Yeah.
Like only a quarter of it. So we said love is a verb. So when we tell your partner, show them you love them, it's what you do
Exactly.
over and above what you say. Or if you say it, then you match it with what you do. Because if I tell you I care about you, but my actions speak otherwise,
True.
my words are useless.
Yeah.
But if I show it to you and then I do it, you're like, oh, that's huge.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
please let us understand that feelings are like 1%. The rest is what you do. So come into marriage with the idea of, I'm coming to give, not to get. If both of you have
Period.
that mindset, Rose,
It's true.
that marriage will withstand any storm.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're coming in to give, not to get. Isn't it? Eh? So that is very important.
Yeah.
So the other thing that couples argue about is control and dominance. I mean, your bazoo.
You
That's
know?
a mango, you know?
One man's meat is another man's poison.
True.
Some couples prefer when there are defined roles for each individual. And we can't blame them. If it's working for them, why not?
Yeah.
But some people like just partnership.
Yeah.
Anybody can do anything as long as they have the ability to do it.
Yeah.
And if it works for them, why not?
Yeah.
So let's not fight about who is in charge of what.
Yeah.
Let's communicate our expectations.
Yeah.
And you know, I said a while back that expectations in marriage are okay because that's how you grow. The only problem is if you have expectations based on a wrong foundation.
Yeah.
That this person told you, I don't mind doing ABCD. And then when it comes to marriage, when it comes to the real deal, they're not doing it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
then you're disappointed.
True.
So it's fine to have expectations, but then let them be realistic, let them be communicated,
Yeah.
and then power will not be a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love you mentioned that because when it comes to control and dominance, you mentioned gender roles.
Yes.
During the days of my granddad and my grandma, now they are passed on, God rest their souls in eternal peace. Their marriage was defined by roles.
Yes.
My grandma was a homemaker. My dad was the breadwinner.
Provider.
It was very easy.
Yeah.
She cooked, he brought the bread.
Yes.
Now, in our day, both of us, because of the high cost of
Yeah.
living, we are both breadwinners. So I can't really expect my wife to be working and doing everything.
Exactly.
So I have my relative, he's in the UK. He's lived there for some time. When he comes over with his wife,
Yeah.
he shocks me.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes the wife goes, he's left with the baby.
Yeah.
And sometimes I see him wake up in the morning to go buy milk. Yeah, and I'm
I
like,
love that.
bad, Buddha,
You
like
know?
Laibisha, man. I've never told him
I
that,
know.
but I'm thinking it.
Yeah.
But then that's how it works there, because both of them are working.
Exactly.
But it really works for them. So what you've said form the culture in your marriage, isn't it? Eh?
Yes.
And don't assume that your partner knows what they'll do. Agree on it.
Yeah. Talk about it.
Yeah. Do you want to be
Yeah.
gender-defined roles, or do you want us to agree? If
Exactly.
you don't define that,
Yeah.
then that is the issue. Because I think with control and dominance, it's all about that.
If there's one important thing I feel in marriage is structure.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you don't have a structure, anything can go anywhere. And you risk, the risks are higher
Yeah.
when there is no structure.
True.
So it's good to form a culture, not the culture that has been formed in other marriages,
Yeah.
not what the society thinks about culture,
Yeah.
just your own culture in your home.
Absolutely.
And I'm telling you, eventually people will love your marriage.
Yeah.
They might not know what you're doing to make it work,
Yeah.
but you both know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we mention culture, it's important we tell our viewers culture is defined as, it's like the ecosystem
Exactly.
in how you
Yeah.
make your marriage work, isn't it? So we have a culture in the society,
Yes.
but your marriage should have a culture. This is how we do things here. So agree on that
Yeah.
and be comfortable with that, because that's the only way you can make it work,
Yeah.
isn't it? Eh?
Yes.
So the other thing that couples argue about is future plans and money. And money is big. Money is bigger.
As well as future plans.
And future plans. Because sometimes when you're dating, when you're courtship, you can agree, oh, in 5 years
Yeah.
we'll build a home,
I know.
we'll do this. But then after 2 years in marriage, you ask your partner about it, they're like, don't know what
You know, things start changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating, especially if your personality is the one who likes order.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying, yeah? Because me, my personality is, I love structure.
Yeah.
You get it?
Structure.
So if you marry someone who is like happy-go-lucky, whatever
Yeah.
comes is good,
Yeah.
that's an issue. Do you agree?
You know, the thing is, change is inevitable, you know. And sometimes maybe you were planning for this 5 years ago, but along the way, everything changed.
Yeah.
So you have to be welcoming to change.
Yeah.
And that is why every single day communication is important, so that
Yeah.
you understand, are we still thinking about this?
Are we still on course?
Are we still on course?
Yeah.
If we are off course, why?
Yeah.
Are we on the same
Do
page?
we need to make amendments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has made you change your mind?
Yeah.
And that is why we said it's good to bring the issue on the table instead of attacking your partner.
True.
Because you see, probably you said that you want to build after 2 years, but your partner now has a different school of thought.
Yeah.
So you get angry that your partner has changed their mind,
Yeah.
but you're not trying to understand why they changed their mind.
True.
So place the issue on the table
Yeah.
and deal with the issue.
Absolutely.
Stop attacking your partner.
Yeah.
So change, the aspect of change really affects marriages and future plans, because you might not always be on the same page, but communicate where you're at every
Absolutely.
other time.
Because again, change is the only constant in life. And sometimes even though you had made plans,
Yeah.
sometimes things happen and you need to readjust.
Yes.
Which is normal. But what we're saying is don't deviate off course
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna change something, like, okay, this is why I feel we should do this
Yes.
and ABC. Because communication is the lifeline of any
Yeah,
marriage. Yeah.
relationship, true.
So having said that, as we come to a close, because time is not on our side, how do we resolve conflict in marriage?
First of all, understand your emotions as an
Understand the
individual.
emotions, yeah.
Understand your emotions. They have your best interest at heart. And that is the best way for you to learn how to address the issue, as opposed to confronting an
Absolutely.
individual.
Yeah, I love that. So when you're having a heated discussion with your partner and it leads to an argument, again, be civil,
Yeah.
be respectful. Do you know there is a way you can argue? And I'm working towards that, whereby you do not become sarcastic
Yeah.
and vulgar. You know, you're just arguing, but you're arguing based on facts and issues. I mean, there's civility in the way you talk, because we have to understand after the argument, life has to continue.
Life will continue after that, and whatever you did at that point will affect
Yeah.
your next interaction, your next way of interacting with your partner. And then it's also good to understand yourself and to know how you best handle the emotions that come with conflict.
Yeah.
So that if you need some time off, then you're able to communicate
I
with your
love that.
partner
I love
and
that.
tell them, you know what, at this point I need time off, and then you're going to talk about this
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
So that you don't have to, if you're not able to handle emotions at that point, the heat of those emotions at that point, take your time off.
Absolutely.
But communicate.
Yeah.
So it's good to understand how you deal with anger, with emotions, strong emotions, as an individual, so that you go and address these issues with your partner in a healthy way.
Absolutely. So let's say if you feel an argument is coming up
Yeah.
and you feel your form right now is you're about to explode,
Exactly.
tell your partner, can we take a time off? Can we revisit this issue?
Cognitive
Yeah,
behavioral
because
therapy.
you know, if we talk about it, I'm gonna say some things
Yeah.
around it. So when you understand how you are, it's important, because
Yeah.
after, you see, sometimes when we're emotional, emotions take over and we say and do things we're not
Yeah.
supposed to do. But after a few minutes and you calm down and your rational thinking
Yeah.
is restored, then you're like, you know what? I think I didn't see this the way he saw it.
Yeah.
You get, and it will be easier. The Bible says a soft tongue turns
Tons of-
away wrath.
anger.
Yeah, but angry words stir up anger. Yeah. So in fact the Bible gives us wisdom.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Eh?
Yeah.
So take time off and say, okay, right now our emotions are high.
Yeah.
Let's take some time off and revisit the issue. And I'm sure you'll be able to come with an amicable solution. And sometimes you can even agree to disagree.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
You might just sit and agree that, you know what, it's not worth it.
It's not worth
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
it's
I want to
not
take a
worth
pale
it.
question.
Yeah, because you don't really have to argue about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Rose, man, this is the second part series. We are doing one more series
Yeah.
on wholesome intimacy in marriage. What are your parting remarks?
You know, at the end of the day, I feel like we are the ones in charge of our emotions. You know, whether your partner has made you angry or not, you're the one in charge of your emotions.
Yeah.
And the more you you protect your sanity, the better you are for that marriage.
Yeah.
So it's good to protect your sanity in all circumstances. And so take yourself through that cognitive behavioral exercise. Always try to examine your thoughts, try to examine your feelings, and so that you can be a healthy partner for your
Awesome.
partner.
Also for your own mental health.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So my closing remarks is scripture. Ecclesiastes 9 verse 9. You will love this. Live happily with the woman you love through all the meaningless days of life that God has given you under the sun. The wife God gives you is your reward for all your earthly toil.
Ish, wives are a reward.
Come on
Ish.
now. So again, I love this wisdom.
Love
The
it.
key here is this. Throughout the meaningless days of your life, all that matters is what? Live happily with your wife.
Live happily.
Isn't it? Huh?
Yeah.
So with those few remarks, we want to say again, thank you for joining us. This is a 3-part series. So next week we'll be attempting to conclude this
Yeah.
series, but I really hope the show is a blessing to you. Kindly remember to inbox. We do read your comments. Thank you. And we encourage you to inbox us and send us questions and any topics you'd like us to talk about. But from